We did a lot of good things. We made tremendous sacrifices for the right things to make a better country. But in the end, I think we lost our way and we didn't understand really what we were doing there.
And I want to get your reaction to something Secretary of State Tony Blinken said this morning. Let's listen to this.
There was an agreement that the forces would come out on May 1st. Had we not begun that process, which is what the president did, and the Taliban saw, then we would have been back at war with the Taliban. And we would have been back at war with tens of thousands of troops having to go in because the 2,500 troops we had there and the air power would not have sufficed to deal with the situation, especially as we see, alas, the hollowness of the Afghan security forces. And by the way, from the perspective of our strategic competitors around the world, there's nothing they would like more than to see us in Afghanistan for another 5, 10, 20 years. It's simply not in the national interest.
Mr. Secretary, Blinken seems to be saying this was the least of all bad options, what we're watching right now.
Well, you're right in the fact that there were no good options. But let's go back to 2014, Jim. I was Secretary of Defense at the time. That's when President Obama said America's combat role, our mission, is over. We pulled out tens of thousands of troops. We closed hundreds of bases, and President Obama said, every president has said before and after Obama, we're not going to be there forever. That was the beginning, 2014, of the end of our presence, the beginning of that process. So this shouldn't be anything new for anybody that we were going to come out. Now, there are variations of that, and we've seen that over 20 years, ups and downs. But I think Blinken's words are right. I think you can take issue with some of what this administration has done, how they've done it. I think, beginning with your first question to me, making such bold pronouncements a few months ago when the uncertainty of this was, to me, pretty clear. I mean, the fact is that we know, if you've been following any news, that over the last 2 years, the Taliban was getting stronger, actually over the last 10 years. But certainly over the last 2 years, the Taliban was getting stronger, and that it was measured by any measurement you want to apply to it. So yeah. I would not have been that bullish in how I presented it, but there were no good options here.
Let me ask you, though, one of the things that we're monitoring right now is what happens to the Hamid Karzai airport that is being used to evacuate Americans, other Westerners, and so on. What happens if that airport falls, do you think, Mr. Secretary?
Well, if it falls, then it does create a very dangerous dynamic, because who then controls the airport? The Taliban. You can't get anything in or out without their acquiescence and without their approval. You could also see a failure in the process. The Taliban are not very sophisticated, and airports are sophisticated places for all the reasons we understand. This could be even in a greater tragedy if that airport falls, and I think you've got to accept the reality that it very well may fall. Then if we get into a shooting part of this, defending that airport, then we've got a real problem, because we're going to have 6,000 troops there.
But do you think it was a mistake?
We've got a real mess.
Yeah, let me ask you, do you think it was a mistake, though, to allow the Taliban to sweep across the country and take charge this quickly before getting all of our people out? Because we're facing the prospect of the Taliban being in charge of everything, and then we're going to them hat in hand to get our people out.
Jim, that process started early last year when President Trump decided that we were coming out, and he said to the nation, we're going to be out by May of this year. And he started the peace process without including the Afghan government. That was a huge mistake, in my opinion. Same thing we did in Vietnam. Well, once we did that, that sent a very, very clear signal, not only to the Taliban, but also to the Afghan forces and the Afghan government, that we were leaving them behind, and that we were coming out no matter what. And the Taliban understood that. In fact, I mentioned the last 2 years they've gained ground. In any measurement of where the Taliban has been and was going over the last 2 years was that they were controlling more than half, maybe 60% of Afghanistan. And so if anybody was just paying attention to this a little bit, you'd understand where this was going. But when President Trump said, we're coming out, we did the Doha peace agreement with the Taliban, and then we went back to the Afghan government and said, now you live with this, you're going to release 5,000 prisoners in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, it was pretty clear.
Yeah. All right, former Defense Secretary Chuck Hagel, lots to discuss. We'll keep the conversation going. Thanks for your time this evening. We appreciate it.